My boy John Boyega is making headline news in the Star Wars world today with a double whammy of publicity. First, he says he's open to returning to Star Wars, under the right circumstances, of course. This coming out after his previous statements that he was done with the franchise and that Lucasfilm is not gonna quote-unquote Disney Plus him. What's even more interesting, though, is something both fans and critics of the sequel trilogy will want to hear: his own personal rankings of those 3 sequel films that he starred in. We're gonna get into this and the fan reactions to this news. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing. We're making some big changes here at the Star Bazaar, kind of shifting focus of the channel, so this video is a little bit different from our usual video game content. Give it a thumbs up if you want, but we're gonna get right into the news. First and foremost, John says he is open to returning to Star Wars and reprising his role as Finn. This came out a few days ago, but he sat down for an exclusive interview with TECHRADAR to promote his new Netflix film, They Cloned Tyrone, and it was here that he got to share some of his recent thoughts about the Star Wars franchise and how he sees himself fitting back into that world. When he was asked if he had any interest in returning to the galaxy far, far away, he acknowledged his past statements, saying that was a few years ago, in reference to those comments. So they were the subject of that particular project, meaning the sequel trilogy. But I'm open to all characters and scripts that are enjoyable, have a great cast attached, and a terrific director. So yeah, I'm open to all opportunities. Definitely a flip from where he was just a few years ago, but I'm not complaining. Finn was one of the 2 most interesting characters in the whole sequel trilogy, alongside Kylo Ren, so I'd be more than happy to see more Finn in Star Wars, especially since we haven't got to see what happens to him after Episode 9. It's definitely implied he becomes a Jedi, at least getting trained in the ways of the Force by Rey. It's interesting too that this is coming out after the announcements of those 3 new Star Wars movies in development, particularly the one about Rey, which is most likely where we would see Finn show up again. I'm happy he's open to it. Based on his previous comments in that one GQ interview from 2020, it really seemed like his experience working on Star Wars was soured from more than one angle. He mentioned how he felt he was the only cast member whose entire experience of Star Wars was based on race. And I know depending on which side of the fandom you land on, you'll probably blame different things for that. If you're pro-sequels, you'll probably say it was the toxic fans. If you're a sequel critic, you'll probably think it was the industry and Hollywood itself. But honestly, it was a little bit of both. To say there aren't horrible, toxic people in this fandom who send nasty messages to the actors is just plain ignorance. They're out there. Few and far between, but they're out there. But to also ignore the fact that writers and executives intentionally reduced his role to appease overseas audiences is just as ignorant. The guy got screwed, and not the way he probably wants. So it's honestly cool to see that tension die down a bit and him actually be open to coming back to Star Wars. Let me know in a comment below if you want to see more Finn, but this next bit of news is even juicier than that. I won't bury the lead. Let's roll the clip.
Rank the 3 Star Wars films you were in from best to worst. Hell yeah, I do it. Star Wars The Force Awakens is most definitely the best. Second for me comes Star Wars 9, and then the worst, in the most respectful sense, is Episode 8 for me. But they're all lovely.
Gotta say, based Boyega. I think he understands Star Wars. We noticed that little side eye. TFA, easily the best out of the sequel trilogy, and The Last Jedi, easily the worst. And look, I know what I'm about to say is kind of controversial, even though I can actually back this up with objective evidence. Ever since The Last Jedi released, the fandom has been split right down the middle, and Star Wars as a franchise never fully recovered from Rian Johnson's abomination of a movie. Don't believe me? I bring you statistics. This is Google Trends, and I'm making a video going deeper into this topic because it needs to be talked about, I think. But look at this. This massive spike right here is The Force Awakens. This is an all-time high for Star Wars popularity. It was good to be a fan around 2015 and 2016. Theory videos were everywhere. People were excited to talk about Star Wars, and we were wondering where it was going to go in the future. Who is Snoke? Who is Rey? Why was Luke on that island? J.J. Abrams' mystery box approach wasn't perfect, but it absolutely did its job in getting us interested in Star Wars again, and these numbers speak to that. Star Wars was in prime condition for a good 2 years. Then we come here to 2017, when The Last Jedi released, and man, it crashed and burned. Ever since then, Star Wars has not seen the same level of success or popularity. In fact, based on these numbers here, it's roughly around the same level of popularity as it was during that 10-year hiatus between episodes 3 and 7. You know, that point in time when nothing came out. That is sad. We are in a supposed Star Wars renaissance with a bunch of TV shows and new movies and new video games on the horizon, but it really feels like nobody cares about this brand anymore. It's partly why I'm shifting focus of this channel, if I'm being completely honest with you. The Last Jedi actually killed Star Wars, and yeah, I'm showing my bias here. The woke Twitter crowd loves it, the based fandom hates it, and I think once Lucasfilm reconciles the fact that Episode 8 did irreparable damage to the brand, we're gonna keep going down this track of non-interest. This is truly why I think Rian Johnson's trilogy is never happening, because his movie broke the franchise, and I doubt the higher-ups are gonna give him the chance to fix it. Not that I think he could anyway. But I didn't make these numbers up, this is Google. So as far as John's assessment of how he ranks the movies that he starred in, I think he's spot on. He's coming at it from not only the perspective of actually having been in the movie, but we've been a couple years removed from the last installment of the sequels, so at this point, he's seen fan sentiment. Speaking of fan sentiment, let's check out some of the reactions to John's ranking, shall we? It's literally the best one, but okay, John. Well, John is wrong. John is trying to join the Mark Hamill League of actors who don't recognize the greatness of the film they were in. John Boyega fails to recognize peak cinema. That last one sounds like a shitty Vox article. It's really interesting to see these fans think they know the movie better than the actor who actually starred in it, but I digress. And that's not to say that everything being hurled at John is criticism of what he's saying. He's actually seeing a lot of online support, too. Agreed. Comment John W. Finn Spittin, based John Boyega, based, like I said. I'm rarely on Twitter, but I do enjoy these little fandom squabbles that give me an excuse to go on there and read all the comments and see what people are saying. If you're on Twitter and you want to follow me, it's at BazarStar, but like I said, I'm never on there, I never tweet. I just had my 5th Twitter anniversary like 2 weeks ago and I couldn't care less. But really, that's all for today, guys. I just wanted to talk about the news regarding John Boyega. It's really interesting that he is showing interest in returning to Star Wars. I would love to see Finn come back as a fully fledged and trained up Jedi Knight. That's awesome. That's what we wanted to see from the beginning. And let me know what you think of his rankings of the 3 sequel trilogy movies. Do you agree with his rankings or do you disagree? And if you disagree, let me know your rankings down in the comments below. On a more personal note, like I said in the beginning, I'm trying to change course on this channel. It's going to be less focused on the Star Wars video games and just more broadly Star Wars in general, so including the movies, the TV shows, and still video games, of course. But that's why we're talking about this today, is I'm trying to break out into that niche of just a more general Star Wars channel. Like I said, man, it really seems like nobody cares about this franchise anymore. We just got Star Wars Outlaws announced, nobody cares. We've got these 3 new movies in development. It seems like nobody cares. Like, Star Wars just feels like a bit of a dead franchise right now, so I need to broaden my horizons, you know what I mean? Anyway, if you guys like the video, give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!